Okay, this is from chapter 9 from the book Best Christian Art, Paintings About Early Christianity. Okay, this is like part B. We did the part A yesterday. So we're going to start out, we just did St. Peter, now we're doing St. Paul. And here he is preaching in Athens at the Areopagus. The New Testament is written in Greek. And the Greeks were very open-minded, and a lot of Christianity is strongly related to the ancient Greeks. People try to pretend that's not true, but it's obviously true if you study it. You know, there's two major lines of Christianity. There's the Aristotelian Christianity, as gone through Thomas Aquinas. There was more of the Platonic Christianity, as went through St. Augustine. Okay, and then you look back in the Medicis in the Renaissance in Italy. Plato was very popular with one group, including with the Medicis, St. Aquinas and more of that Aristotelian perspective with others. So here is St. Paul preaching. This is painted by Raphael in 1515. And this is something from 1 Corinthians. If I speak in tongues of men and angels, but I have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith that could move mountains, but have not love, then I am nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. Love does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but it does rejoice with truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. For we know now in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. What I now know in part, then I shall know fully. So abide these three, faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. And we talked about that before, the colors of Christianity. Faith is the the white, green is the hope, red is the love. And so one of the points here is that's what makes things work. And that's why when I've talked about medicine, I say conventional medicine can never reform itself. It'll never be any good until it takes on Bible-based ethics. Man is created in the image of God, therefore part divine as well as part beast. The individual is the most important thing, and we shall treat him with love and respect. There's just too much money to be made. And so the modern system runs on atheistic Darwinism. That's why it can't be any good. It actually stinks, but, for people who really understand it. Okay, continuing on here with the next painting. This is St. Andrew, who was also martyred. So St. Paul was martyred. He's really kind of became an apostle in a sense. St. Peter was martyred for Christ. St. Paul was martyred for Christ, both under Nero. And then here is St. Andrew. He was also martyred for Christ. 11 out of the 12 apostles were martyred for Christ. St. Andrew was known for having been crucified on a cross like the letter X. This painting was by Mattia Pretti from 1699. Okay, here's St. Mark, preaching in Alexandria in Egypt. Painted by the brothers Gentile Giovanni Bellini, the Venetian painters. They're always good with the colors. And St. Mark has a strong association, of course, with Venice. Here is the painting of, this is the cover for the movie. This is one of the great versions of the movie of Quo Vadis. So Quo Vadis was written by Henryk Siemradzki, the Polish writer. It's one of the all-time four greatest novels of all time. I mean, the four greatest novels of all time are Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, the English writer, Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, the French writer. Number 3 would be Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky, the Russian writer. Number 4 would be Quo Vadis by Henryk Siemradzki. And it was set right in the time of early Christianity. And this is the girl Lygia. She was the barbarian princess who became a Christian. This is the Roman general Vinicius who fell in love with her. This is Poppaea, who was the mistress to Nero. And Nero is just sort of an evil villain, thought he was God, and he did so many bad things. But it's a magnificent book. It's a magnificent movie. I gave that movie 8 out of 10 stars. Here's one painting of Nero when he burned down Rome. He intentionally burned down Rome because he wanted to build buildings. And as you can see, the same patterns in history happen today. I think one of the reasons why Europeans tend to be so much more with it than Americans are, Europeans understand all of this stuff. Whereas Americans, they go to public school, most of them, and they're sort of trained to think that society likes them. In my experience, anybody who thinks society likes them is incapable of thinking. You have to think, like, imagine you were the billionaire and you ran things. What would you be thinking? That's the proper way to think. And then you see the way they think, a lot of them is sick. Okay, it's non-Christian, very much so. So Nero intentionally burned down Rome, caused many, many thousands of people to die. Then he blamed it on the Christians and put all kinds of spectacles in the amphitheater, the Colosseum, after that. Okay, Ayn Rand, who was a great scholar of literature, she wanted to be a great writer herself, so she read everything she can get her hands on. She said Quo Vadis is the best novel ever written. If you look like what a novel should be, Quo Vadis is that. A likable protagonist, Pretonius and Vinicius, has a goal, constantly runs into obstacles. A contrast of cultures, you name it, it's there. Okay, Nero fiddled while Rome burned. And again, you see the parallel. You see the parallel to what happened not that long ago in Hawaii. Okay, burning something down so someone else could build what they want in that same location. You see the same parallel in Paris, in France. There was burning down in the city while the so-called ruler was, going to an Elton John concert. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is the value of knowing this history. I strongly believe that the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans should be taught in every single school to children. If you learn what happened with the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans, you become so much more with it. You can have an intelligent conversation. What I like about this ancient history of the Greeks and Romans is that when people talk about it, they've got no dog in the fight. If you talk about what happened in the 1900s, a lot of people are offended if you don't see things the way they do. There's a lot of emotional feelings that push into it. Versus when you just talk about human behavior of the ancient Greeks and Romans, nobody has an emotional commitment one way or the other, and you just get the truth out of what happened. Okay, here's a painting. This is Nero's Fire in Rome in 64 AD. It was put out and restarted. It was restarted in a bunch of locations. This one's by Hubert Robert in 1785. All of that, by the way, is in the book Quo Vadis. Okay, here's just a little bit of perspective on the kind of things that Nero did. He killed his mother, okay? That's how evil Nero was. He first of all put her in a boat that was designed to collapse, and when she was out to sea, it did collapse. She somehow managed to swim away, but then he still had his goons, chase her down and, put an end to her. That's what he did to his mother. He did that to two of his wives. And I mean, what does that remind you of? It kind of reminds you of like Henry VIII, okay, who bumped off like 5 wives or something. So what I'm saying is when a ruler has total power and has no God above them, they often will behave very badly. And that's why I say the only thing that could save society, save healthcare, save the USA is to have Bible-based ethics. Okay, you can laugh and scoff at that, but people who haven't read. But if anybody who's read history and knows the truth of history, they'll see that I'm 100% right. Okay, I don't say these things loosely. I say these things based on decades of study and knowing from people from all different kinds of countries that are these different type of situations. Okay, the collapsing boat of Agripinna. That was painted by Gustave Werthheimer in 1874. Okay, here is a painting of Nero burning the Christians as torches. So he decided to blame his own fire in Rome on the Christians. He would just put them on a tree pole and then just set them on fire to serve as torches at night. There's Nero up there. Very sick. Okay, but what happened is, as the people of Rome saw what was done to the Christians and they saw how well the Christians behaved, how noble and good they were, it was very inspiring to them. More and more people converted to Christianity, and they said that the blood of the martyrs was the seed of the church. Okay, it led to tons of people wanting to become Christians. They saw how evil, people like Nero were, and how good the Christians were, and people said, "This is right, this is good." Here's the Christians in sort of a holding area at the Colosseum before they're going to be sent out to be eaten by the lions. Okay, So it was pretty awful. That's the idea of a spectacle to Nero and to the pagans. Okay, to a Christian, of course, that's evil and disgusting. So here's some of the Christians, praying. And they also sang before they were to be eaten by the lions. For example, they often sang Christus regnat, the Latin version of Christ reigns. And so here you had this amazed, pagan Roman audience. And they see all these Christians, who are having an inevitable death in moments. And now look how great these people are. Look how they face death. Their God must be better than the other gods. Why does their God let this happen? And the theory was their God let it all happen to show the people the greatness of the Christians, and Christianity took off after that. Okay, this painting is Christian Martyrs Thrown to the Lions by the Romans by Jean Gerome in 1863. And then here's the aftermath painting also by Jean-Léon Gerome, 1902. So, of course, it's pretty sad and awful. All right. But that was routine to the Romans. They were sick in the head. That's why when people say ancient Greeks and ancient Romans, as if they're the same thing, they're not. The ancient Greeks were awesome. They're heroic, incredible people. No people is perfect. Okay, yeah, they did have slavery too. All cultures have had slavery until Christianity got rid of it. That took a long time to fully happen. But Nero, he would just do crazy things. Like he thought he was an artist, a poet, an actor, and he would... like there'd be an ancient Greek myth where a lady was tied to, the myth of Dirce. He just imitated the myth and tied a woman to a bull. So the poor woman, was killed by that, of course. And that was just a typical crazy thing that Nero would do. Okay, here's a very famous story and painting. This is Constantine's vision of the cross, and this was painted by Raphael in 1520. Initially Christianity was sort of a small group until it was made sort of the official religion of Rome by Constantine. So Constantine had to fight a big battle, and the night before the battle, he saw a vision of the cross in the sky, and he said, "Under this cross we shall conquer." So all of his soldiers, had the cross drawn on their shield, and then they were successful in their battle. And so here's Constantine's victory at Milvian Bridge. Okay, this was painted by Giulio Romano in 1520. So that was a big victory for Constantine. And once Constantine had won, Christianity, became the dominant religion in Rome. And then it became the dominant religion in the world. Okay, here's a painting by Gustave Dore. And this is, I think, chasing the pagans out of Rome. And basically, this was done in 1868, the triumph of Christianity. So there's Jesus Christo with the big cross, and this was the idea of chasing out the pagans. There's a little bit of controversy about that, and the controversy will be, some people will tell you, like, if you look at William Durant's a great American historian, he said that Christianity did not banish paganism. He said that Christianity adopted paganism, that there was some overlap in the holidays and stuff. For example, if you look at Saturday in like Spanish is sábado, and there's a lot of people who claim that Saturday should be Sabbath day, and that's the real day to worship. Other people say Christianity took Sunday as its church day because that's the day that the Romans worshiped the sun, for example. Okay? So I'm not going to get into all that stuff. I think you can drive yourself crazy with that. I've read tons of Bible commentary, and there's tons of contradictions and stuff about all this type of stuff. I don't see any contradictions about the life of Jesus and Jesus' message. Love each other, be nice to each other, be good to each other, forgive each other, give each other the benefit of the doubt. That's all good. And that's, I think, what leads to a good society. And that's big. Christianity was really big with that. And like getting back to that first painting in 1 Corinthians with St. Paul, where he said, without love I am nothing. It's the love that makes things work. I mean, think about a family. What makes the parents take such good care of the baby, better than anyone else in the world? It's because they love the baby. Why does mama and papa stay up all night when the baby's sick, do everything for the baby? Because they love the baby. Love gets people to do the right thing. Love will stand up against anything to do the right thing for the child. So that's why it's such a powerful thing. That's why it's such a good thing. That's why you need it to really make things good. And that's why all this idea of dry, atheistic, pure logic science, it's a joke. It's a joke. So anyways, that's it for today. We'll finish up the chapter next time. I hope that was interesting for you.